Welcome to episode 2 of Street Talk with Adi. Our story today will be regarding animal shelters. Animal shelters and rescue programs are an attempt at providing a second chance to animals in need. Many pets are left on the streets to sleep in the cold, dark alleyways, not knowing where their next source of food is going to come from. And mostly none of them get a second chance. Did you know that 7.6 million pets are left homeless? And of that, 30% of pets are put down, and even worse, some of those pets are puppies and kittens. But luckily, we have 14,000 animal rescue programs and organizations in the USA alone. These organizations go around and save the stray dogs and cats and give them a second chance at life. If you decide to become a pet owner, you have options. You can adopt from a shelter. You could go to a breeder and ask for a specific breed of the animal you desire. Or you could foster a dog to see if you like it, and then take it at the end. But before you adopt, I've invited Mr. Ramesh Anand, who has saved many pets in the greater Houston area, to talk about pet rescue and shelter programs. Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me, Aditya.
Yeah. First of all, tell us about your background.
Well, I moved from India to the US 25, 30 years ago in 93. I've been a resident of Houston ever since. I'm more a Texan than an Indian by virtue of that. And I own a consulting company. I have a HR company. I also own a startup software company, which is involved in automation process. And when I'm not doing that, I'm involved in a lot of community activities. Uh, Besides running, biking, triathlons, and other stuff, I rescue animals.
It's very interesting.
Yeah.
Secondly, what was your motivation for joining an animal rescue organization?
Well, as I mentioned, I rescue animals, and it started one thing, always one thing leads to another. Not everything is done proactively. You don't plan. My son was studying law school. He was graduating long back. And he mentioned that he would like to get a puppy and asked if we could keep it in our house. We used to live together that time. And he said he would move to an apartment and take the puppy with him after a couple of months. But in those 2, 3 months, we got attached to the puppy too. And it was a boxer. And so then 3, 4 months later, as he moved to the apartment, we convinced him to leave the dog here with us. And he could always come and take care of it, which he did. So every Wednesday evening he would come, not for us, but for the dog. And then weekends, Friday, he would come. He would take the dog to the dog park, take it to the vet, take care of it. I mean, he did everything. So rest of the week, the dog would be with us. His name was Tyson, which is why my company also, if you notice, it's called Tysonite Partners in his memory. My rescue is also called Tyson's Pals Rescue. And so unfortunately, at the very young age, by dog's years also, at 5.5, 6 years, the poor guy passed away because of multiple health issues. And both my wife and I were blown away by that. And I did not expect that would happen. And we decided that no more dogs. We won't get any, but we will foster and take care. And that started our rescuing. This was probably about 8 years ago, 7, 8 years. So last 7, 8 years, we started rescuing dogs. Uh, of course, during that period, we also did get a dog that decided to stay in my house and not leave. And his name was Rocky. They were going to kill him in a local shelter. We brought him. He got attached to me, so we kept him. But he just passed away a month ago.
Oh,
And he was my shadow and my wingmate as far as rescues were concerned. He was big. He was about 120 pounds. And but that's how rescues, I got into rescue.
thank you. For the third question, when you say animal rescue, what do you mean?
Okay. So there are, if one were to divide rescue into multiple areas, people normally, I have had a lot of my friends come say, you know what, Ramesh, I rescued a dog. What they have done is they have merely adopted a dog and not rescued a dog. So there's a difference between adopting a dog and rescuing a dog. So a pet, not necessarily dog. Uh, like I have rescued dogs and cats and all kind of things. Uh, there are by law, every state, every county has a shelter. There are shelters in cities. Now, Texas states that if a stray dog is found, I'll use dog as a way of saying it could be cat or other animals also, but I do not know the laws related to cats and others. So I'll talk about dogs. But pets, if they're found as a stray, the law requires the local shelter, whether it is state or county, or rather city or county, to keep them for 3 days to see if the owner comes. At the end of 3 days, they're allowed to adopt it out. State of Texas, animals are considered property. So if you find an animal, you cannot just pick it up and take it home and say, hey, it's mine. There's no finders keepers because it is property, it belongs to somebody else. But at the end of 3 days, if you have taken reasonable effort to find the owner, at the end of 3 days, you then have the option to decide what to do with it, whether keep it or find it another home. So you've got the city and county shelters that have these things. Now, because of excess population, each year in the United States, anything between 5 to 6 million, 7 million is what I understand, animals are killed in shelters. And 95 to 99% of them are amazing animals. But they are killed not because they want to kill it, because there is no space. So people like me, individual or privately operated rescues, as we call ourselves, we come into play. So we sometimes go to shelters, we pick up, I have picked up from a whole load of shelters, pets. I just go randomly. In my case, I am breed agnostic, size agnostic, injury agnostic. I have picked up real injured dogs and nurse them to health over 3, 4 months. So I really don't care. I just go say, okay, I'll take this dog, I bring it. And then I find out what's wrong with the dog. No, that's not how people who adopt do. And then we nurse it back. I train them. Very often I've trained dogs, sometimes because the way dogs are brought up depends on the family. So then I train them on acceptable behavior, not 100% generally. And so we pick up from there. Sometimes I get people call me and say that, you know what, I found this dog, can you please help? So we rescue those dogs. So it comes from somebody finding, from shelters. Shelters, I get emails from people saying that, so the shelters announce saying that today, these are the 10 dogs we are going to put to sleep. So then we all get emails saying, hey, these are the dogs that are going to be put to sleep. Any of you can help. So if being an individual or a small group, we don't have the luxury or the finances to rescue zillions of dogs at one time. And in fact, in our rescue, my wife and I are the ones carrying the expenses for the rescue, which is pretty expensive. Okay. And so when somebody says, if I don't have a dog, I say, okay, I'll rescue it. So I rescue it and then I find a home. So it comes from shelters. It comes from people who find a stray on the street. Or third, there are people who have dogs for reasons best known. Sometimes young guys like you get a dog. They go to college. Parents don't know what to do. They find a home. They want to surrender. Sometimes people get married. And sometimes they marry a person. So the significant other does not like animals. I'm scared of dogs, whatever. So the girl or the boy then dumps the pet, saying that, I want the guy or I want the girl. They let go. So people like us come to help. Third, sometimes divorces, somebody dies and stuff like that, they surrender. There are multiple reasons people surrender. And so that's the third way we get rescues.
Um, so do you have a network of rescuers in the Houston area? Do you all stay in touch?
Absolutely. There are a whole load of network. Each rescue organization, they operate on their own, but we all support each other. Sometimes, for example, I get it very often. In fact, you're a wonderful example yourself. Your mom reached out to me saying, "Hey, you know what, I want a puppy, but these are the things that I would like." So now what we would do is, I may not have access to one, but then I can always reach out to my network and say, "Hey, any of you guys, there is this family, wonderful family that is looking for a puppy. Do any of you have that?" And if they do, then I would put you both directly in touch with each other. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depends which way you look at it, rescues have a process of adopting out. Like if I am adopting out, I have a dog or a cat that I've rescued and I want to adopt it out, I just don't hand over unless I know the person. If I know the person very well, then I ignore the normal safety precautions that I would take. Otherwise, besides the standard application form and a contract, I would have due diligence. I would ask them for their vet's information. I would call the vet and say, "You know what, Aditya wants to adopt a dog. Has he had a dog before? Has he used you? Is he regular in taking care of the dog? Does he give shots?" So on and so forth. Then I would conduct what is called a home visit. Do you really have a home? Do you have a backyard? Or if you are in an apartment, what kind of apartment is it? Only if I feel comfortable will I adopt the dog out to you. And then there is, most rescues have a nominal adoption fee varying between $150 to $250. The intention is not to make money. In fact, rescues, like when I rescue a dog, I spend anything between 200 to 700. In fact, there have been times like at times I have to board a dog in a boarding. I've spent literally three and four and $5,000 on one individual dog. So when I charge an adoption fee, or if I tell them that please reimburse up to $150 to my vet directly, it never can compensate. So the rescues, when they charge a rescue fee, it is not to make money, but to make sure that the adopter can put their money where their mouth is. So when they adopt, they will give the shots, they will give good food, and take care of the animal they adopt.
So I know you answered this question, but if one were interested, how do they adopt from an organization like you?
I'm sorry, I lost your question.
If one were interested, how do they adopt from an organization like yours?
Well, absolutely. I did not answer it, but here is the thing, Aditya, that there are many ways. One is the network, like the way your mom reached out to me through somebody. So you ask around, hey, who are the people you know in rescuing? Because one thing you want to be sure is that, if you're not going to ask, I want you to talk to me about adopting and buying a dog. Okay, if it's not the question, I don't have your question in front of me. But if you have not, please remember that. But let me answer your question. So what you do is you typically ask around network. Then there are a few portals for animal adoption. There's Adopt a Pet, and Pet Finder are two that come to my mind. So a lot of rescues, when we have a dog for adoption, we would post it on that. So you go there and you see all the dogs over there, and you can pick and choose. So there are two ways that you can find it.
And final question, if one has interest, how do they join your vision?
Okay. Before I answer that, and that's the final, but I want to talk about adoption and buying a puppy,
Okay.
because as a young person, I have found that your generation is extremely cognizant about it as opposed to my generation. My generation sucks, okay, as far as this is concerned. My generation, especially immigrants from South Asian countries like India, etc., we come from a different perspective. We have this racism, if I can call it so, okay,
Mhm.
where you say, you know what, I want to buy this trophy dog, I want to buy a Labradoodle, I want to buy a German Shepherd, so on and so forth. What they don't realize is that all these dogs were bred for a purpose. One. Second, when they are sold in the United States, when they are sold, they come from what you call puppy mills. In my opinion, as a rescue person, I would say 99%. I will not say 100% because there are some dog breeders who are very good. They are what they call AKC certified, American Kennel Club certified, which is a different class altogether. Okay. These people are governed by AKC to make sure they do it properly. But 95% of the ones that you find are really backyard puppy mills. As a you see my t-shirt? I love this t-shirt. A friend of mine gave me. It's called the Dog Father. I love it.
Nice.
So, so coming back, these are the scum of society. They need to go find a regular job. Okay? The way they breed the dogs, they keep it in the most pathetic state. If you see the pictures, your heart will weep. One. Second, from a health point of view, when you buy a dog, most of the dogs are inbred, as they call it. So when dogs are inbred, they automatically have a whole horde of sicknesses that they come with. Sorry about that. So when you reach out to your friends, you talk to people, make sure you tell them, you educate them, never buy a pet, always adopt. Each time they adopt a pet, they have not only adopted one, but they have saved one. Because each time you adopt, one poor animal out there in the shelter at the rescue will not be killed. So it's a very serious thing. And I am delighted you're doing this program. And I hope you share it with others because this is the perfect age to do it. And I'm glad you're adopting a dog and not buying yourself. That's wonderful.
Thank you.
Your last question you had. Would you mind repeating it, please?
Yeah. If anyone has interest, how do they join your vision?
Oh, well, there are again, you go to Pet Finder, Adopt a Pet, or any of them. Okay, not necessarily me alone. Depends where you live. And you'll find a whole list of rescues out there. They've broken it up into shelters, which are city and county run, and then there are animal rescues. You can just write to all of them and say that I would like to volunteer my time. How can I help? One, all rescues really need volunteers. Two, another area that any person can help, for example, me. If I can find people who are willing to foster, I can rescue more dogs. Or fostering, all you do is take care of a puppy or a dog, depending on what you're comfortable. Keep it for a reasonable period of time, take care of it, while we get it, give all the shots if needed. We need to do take care of any health related activities. And then we network and find it a home. Typically, finding a home can take anything from 2 weeks. I have found homes within a day, but 2 weeks to at times it can take as much as 6 months, depending on the kind of dog, right? But if anybody can foster, that's the best way you can help any rescue with fulfilling its vision.
I would like to thank you for your time. This was a very insightful discussion. Thank you.
Sure, Aditya, thank you so much for doing this and wish you all the best in whatever you do.
Thank
And
you.
take care.
Take care. So to conclude, how can you help? There are many ways and you have many options. First of all, you can go to a shelter and adopt a pet. You could also foster a dog from a shelter. But if you want to go the extra mile, you simply can join their vision and help out in the rescuing process. I will have links in the description. Please like and subscribe.